Alright, so up next we have Cuddly yet Painful against DPSbrick. I'm sure this match won't take a while. The DPSbricks have a pretty good set of advantages here too. He's relying heavily on missiles and torpedoes, which Dukeslayer's fleet doesn't really have any defense for. Although I do think one of those volleys will, if it's not fatal against the larger craft, it will still deal a ton of damage. But SW-35's missile ships have done a pretty good job of keeping their distance so far. As long as they keep that up, then they should be able to keep constant pressure. Duke is starting to pull away on the score, but so far the bulk of the damage done has been to the blockers, which is by Duke's design. Let me see how well it actually does against one of the bigger ships. You can see every projectile taking out a big chunk. So they don't pierce armor like Tinkerel cannons do, but because they have an explosive radius, they can do actually more damage. If you hit a target correctly, that is. Like this. It is taking several volleys to take out this big one, though. Although that was largely just because they were off-center. Now that it actually got a good center punch, Dukeslayer's should manage to clean up pretty quickly. And here we have a sniper trying to grow, but getting shot up. And because these are all, I think, damage modules here in the back, it doesn't actually have the range to fire. So it's just kind of going to get shot up for a little while by this little guy. It does appear to be slowly bumping itself to death, though. Although friends have arrived. And you can see all of SW-35's big ships are dead. And looking at the points, you can kind of gauge about where his actual budget is. So even though those big ships appear to be the bulk of his fleet, they don't actually have the bulk of his budget. These little ships don't appear to be very quick, though, which is one reasonable advantage Dukeslayer has with, since the ships are slower and snipers are actually able to connect more reliably. This NW-35 support ship's doing a pretty good job, though, considering his main line is already dead. They're still able to do a pretty solid job. This sniper looks like he's in trouble, though. 2 of his guns are down. You can see the large explosions are from the torpedo launchers on these guys. It's a little hard to tell, but you can. Each of these little guys has 2 torpedo launchers and 2 missile launchers, and the torpedo launchers are especially playing some havoc with these guys, or with the snipers from Dukeslayer. The little tiny hits are from the missiles, the much larger ones being torpedoes. And these little missiles don't really do a whole lot of damage. They're mostly only effective against small undefended ships. But the fact that they're hitting constantly prevents any sort of recovery. And there you can see another pair of guns just went down. The sniper's in a pretty bad way. And still over a minute on the clock. All of its guns are down. The lack of point defense here, I think, is being the biggest problem. You can see the torpedoes just tearing apart the internals now that they're exposed. So the only way that ship is going to survive is if it gets some help from the rest of Duke's fleet, and that does not appear to be happening. So this ship is basically toast, or actually toast, one of the two. Duke still has 1 functional sniper on the field up here, although it's not looking so great either. And 1 partially complete one down here, but it's struggling itself. It's been dealing with these guys the whole game, the whole round. And all these ships down here have just switched up here, or switched up to the sniper. And I guess they were fighting the other sniper. This one is fully destroyed now. The blocker doing its job pretty well. As you can see, the cannon ship here rushed it. It is now just kind of wasting its time headbutting a target that's intended to take a bunch of damage. Dukeslayer does have a pretty sizable point advantage, and there's almost no time left on the clock, so it does look like he's going to take round 1. But that is very close. I want to say that's the closest match Dukeslayer's had yet in this tournament. Or the closest round. We'll see how round 2 goes. Now moving in round 2. A very, very hairy situation for Dukeslayer's fleet, but they did manage to pull off a win. This opening torpedo volley is something fierce though. Shaved off all of the hairs off the front of the sniper. Now he's a Gregorian monk. And much like last time, with a small but early points lead for DPSbrick. Although Dukeslayer's fleet not allowing it to remain that way for long. Taking out one of the little cannon ships pretty early, and the brick itself immediately after. It's a pretty promising bit of news for Duke, no doubt. I feel like what would really help Dukeslayer's fleet out right now is if his factory ships would produce additional copies of his snipers while still relatively early in the match. Though unfortunately they won't actually build stuff when they're under fire. But they could get those snipers growing relatively early. then they might be able to get enough damage on the field to clean up. As we saw last round, the snipers are pretty effective at killing all the little guys, but their torpedoes and constant pressure do take their toll. If Dukeslayer's fleet could get a few extra snipers out, then I don't think he'd have any problem. He does have a pretty sizable lead though, but after the blockers were dead, the fleet from SNW-35 mostly started to catch up for the rest of the match, or for the rest of the round. And I fully expect something similar here too. Now you can see the point difference has gotten very small. And with only one sniper left in the field. For better or worse, Dukeslayer has all of his eggs in his sniper's basket. Which means when this kind of stuff happens, he is losing a tremendous amount of his ability to sustain himself. And you can see most of the support ships from DPSbrick are still alive. I don't think this sniper is too terribly long for the world. You can see the torpedo hits having pretty solid and reliable effect. Although sometimes I like to just fire them off into space. That's fine. Torpedoes like to explore too. Half the gun's down on this sniper. And with a pretty sizable point lead for SNW-35, looks like DPSbrick will be taking round 2. And the time dilation almost completely gone. So that's nice. At least there's that, huh? And there it is, round 2 goes to DPSbrick. So within 1-to-1, it actually looks like DPSbrick overall has the advantage, largely because the support ships out of SNW-35's fleet doing a pretty wonderful job of keeping his fleet in the game long after everything else has been sort of defeated. It also helps that in this third round here, one of Dukeslayer's snipers has decided to charge out front and center ahead of everything else. And yeah, that was one of my laptops starting up. Does that every morning about 2:30, and I just lost track of time. Normally I mute the mic for it. And here you can see the score difference between Cuddly at Painful and DPSbrick is very close compared to many of the previous matches, or many of the previous rounds, which leads me to believe that DPSbrick will be taking this one pretty handily. The snipers from Dukeslayer haven't been able to destroy any of the waffles from SNW-35 yet, and that very much leads me to believe that he'll have the advantage here. And you can see one sniper down. The snipers haven't managed to build any clones yet either. So well done to SNW-35, making a very strong showing in this tournament. Yeah, a four-way tie would be a bit frustrating. We'd have to figure out some sort of tiebreaker mechanism. Normally with tiebreakers, I just handle it based on how the fleets actually performed against each other in the tournament. But with a four-way tie, it would depend very heavily on how they actually managed to luck out. Could be some sort of insanity. And you can see here the sniper and the blockers are working out pretty much as planned, but the relatively low damage output from having only one sniper active is really taking a toll. Yeah, you can see the point gap is still continuing to climb. And now with the sniper from Dukeslayer taking some direct fire, does not look like it's going to get any better. So again, well done to SMW 35. Dukeslayer is one of our typically stronger competitors, and has been making a very good showing so far this tournament as well. And to be able to pull off a pretty solid win like this is always impressive. And it looks like that sniper's about to actually officially go down. Though you descend a caterpillar, may you rise a butterfly. Or something like that. I don't know. But I think the rest of this is just going to be the missile ships. Well, it would have to be just the missile ships and whatnot, cleaning up the blockers from Dukeslayer can't project damage. So I'm gonna see about getting this to run a little faster. Big purple orb butterfly. But as I said, very impressive showing from S&W 35. And DPSbrick takes the match.